Hey guys, it's Bex. Welcome to another video. This video is a little bit late. As you can see from the title, I'm going to be doing the mid-year book tag plus just some stats from the year so far that I wanted to include. I filmed a version of this video literally 2 weeks ago, right at the end of June, and I hated it, so I scrapped it and I was like, I'm just gonna film it again and just redo it. So without further ado, I think I'm gonna start with some statistics for 2024 so far. I also made a little pie graph on Google Docs or Google Sheets or whatever that I will insert for you guys. I have two. I have one for my average rating and then one for my genres. So first, my average rating for 2024 so far was 4.1 stars, which is honestly pretty good. I do feel like I rate a lot of books between a 3.75 and a 4.25 star, so makes sense. I rated 4 books 5 stars, 16 books 4 stars, and 11 books 3 stars, and then nothing below 3 star. And when I say 4 stars or 3 stars, anything between a 3 and a 3.75 or a 4 and a 4.75, I just included in that. So again, pretty good, mostly in the 4-star range, so I guess that makes sense as to why it's a 4.1 star average rating. Then the other thing I find interesting is the genres. So I wasn't really surprised to see that my most read genre was romantasy with 8 books, and that was 25.8% of the books I read. Second is fantasy with 6 books read, and that is 19.4% of all books I read. Romance is third. I'm kind of surprised by that, but I think it's only because I did a video reading 3 romance books, so that's 3 out of the 5. So I usually don't pick them up. I will say in the summer I pick them up more often. So obviously 5 books, 16.1%, and then I had 2 genres tied at 4 books, mystery and fiction. So both of those were 12.9%. And then thriller, I had 2 books, 6.5%, and then I just made an other category, which pretty much only includes, I read 1 sci-fi book and 1 nonfiction book, but I just made them into 1. I don't know why. So other 2 books, 6.5% as well. That's kind of the breakdown of that, and then I guess we can get into the mid-year book tag. So I've seen a couple of these videos now, but I just went to one of them and copied the questions down that she asked herself in that video, and that was Sarah Caroli's most recent mid-year book tag video. So if I remember, I will try to put the questions in the description, but I will also link her video for you guys. First, I didn't really include this in the questions, is that I've read 31 books. Well, I've technically read 32 books, or no, 33. I just finished one yesterday. But as of the middle of the year, which is June 2nd or July 2nd, I had read 31. My reading goal on Goodreads, by the way, is 60 books, so I'm a little bit ahead of my reading goal, but pretty much right on track, so happy with that. And that is the most books I've read in a 6-month period before, so again, happy with that. And I don't think I've been straining myself to read. Sometimes I am really in a reading mood right now in the last couple days, and then sometimes I'm not as much, and it doesn't matter how many books you read, it just matters if you have fun reading and are enjoying the books. Okay, first question is best book you've read in 2024. Okay, I went with this one because in general I just think it is the best written book, the best story, etc., and I also rated it 5 stars, and that is The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. This book needs no explanation. I read this in a video if you want to watch that. Definitely planning on continuing the book series, whatever you want to call it, The Lord of the Rings. And yeah, J.R.R. Tolkien is just a genius, and I don't know how he made up this world. It is so detailed and in-depth and just an epic story, and I absolutely loved it. Next question is the best sequel you've read this year. So I have 2. I have one that is on Kindle Unlimited, so I read it on my Kindle, and that is the second book in the Artifacts of Aranos series by Nisha J. Tooley. If I don't own any of these books, I'll be putting a picture of the cover on the screen for you guys. And this book is called Rule of the Aurora King. The first book, you may have heard this title name, Trial of the Sun Queen. This is an adult romantasy series, and it kind of gives off, I love describing it like this because I think it's perfect. It's like the Hunger Games meets the selection, the romance part, and the Hunger Games like competition part of it. And I really liked it. The first book I liked, but the second book I gave a 4.5 star. Then the other book I included, which I feel like I'm kind of cheating. Literally, I can't even reach it. I have this huge pile of books. Oh my gosh, hopefully it doesn't topple over on me. I almost didn't include this one because I finished it a couple days after the halfway mark. So this is the 32nd book I read this year. But I just had to include it because I finished it on like the 5th, so I'm barely past the halfway mark. But I rated it 5 stars, so I just feel like I have to include it. And I think those were the only 2 actual sequels that I've read of a series. I read a couple novellas, but I don't really count that. So I just thought I'd have to include this. This is, of course, a part of the Shadow Me series if you haven't heard of it or don't recognize it. I was obsessed with it. I could not put it down. And this series, by the way, is young adult dystopian fantasy romance, basically, and about the main character whose touch can kill. The third question is new releases you haven't read yet but want to. Not to repeat myself, but I did want to just mention the third book in the Artifacts of Verona series. It came out at the end of June, so I haven't read it yet, but I am about to, but I just talked about it. So that one, and then a new release that isn't like part of a series or anything, but that I've just heard about and I really think I'm gonna like it and I'm excited to read it, is on Kindle Unlimited, so I don't own it, and that is Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli, which is a fantasy romance. I don't know if it's young adult or not. I don't think so, but don't quote me on that. And it's basically like a witch and a witch hunter, and that's all I really know about it, but I've heard some good things, and just kind of knowing the premise of it, I really think that I will enjoy it. The most anticipated release for the second half of the year, so I have a couple. One that everyone and their mom is probably saying as an answer to this question is, and I'm filming this on like July 10th, so this book has already came out, and it came out July 2nd, so I don't even know whether that counts, but I'm including it because I just have to, and that is, I also am reading it right now, so I don't have the dust jacket, but Reckless by Lauren Roberts, the second book in the Powerless trilogy. I would say I'm excited to read it, but I am reading it already, and I'm not going to give any of my thoughts away because I'm actually reading this in another video that is probably going to be out probably right after this one, but very soon after because I'm almost done filming that, so you guys won't have to wait long if you're curious as to hear my thoughts on this book. Then a couple other ones I have listed. One of them is about to come out in July, and that is The Lost Story by Meg Schaffer. I read her, I think, debut novel, don't quote me on that, The Wishing Game, earlier this year, a couple months ago, and I've rated it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, and The Lost Story, honestly, almost sounds like I will like it more just based on the concept. I've kind of heard it compared to like the Chronicles of Narnia. It just sounds so cute and fun. And a couple others, Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter. I'm so excited for that one. I absolutely loved Better Than the Movies. And then Spectacular. I haven't heard like anyone say this book, and it's a crime. It's technically a novella by Stephanie Garber. It's a part of the Caraval series, and this is kind of maybe an unpopular opinion, but I absolutely loved the Caraval series, like obsessed with them, and any book by Stephanie Garber. It takes place after all the events of Caraval, and it's like a kind of like a wintry novella, and it's a longer novella. It's like 200 pages, which I was so happy when I saw that. I was really hoping it wouldn't be like 80 pages. That one comes out later this year, I think like November maybe, but I haven't pre-ordered the Waterstones edition, and I'm just like, I'm so excited. The biggest surprise. I wasn't really sure what to put on this, but I chose 2 books to talk about. First one is Renegades, and the main reason I chose this was because I didn't really have any expectations. I had heard a couple of people talk about it on the internet, and they usually liked it, and I know that Rachel Catherine, I think, really liked this series, and she's kind of the one that got me to pick it up, and I loved it. I rated it 5 stars. I think it was my first 5-star read of the year. And this is like a book about superheroes and kind of the good versus evil the young adult, super easy read. Even though it's long, it reads pretty quickly, and it was just so fun. And again, I didn't really know what to expect going into it. I didn't really think it would be a 5-star, but really liked it. So that's the first one. And then The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This one holds such a special place in my heart, even though I didn't rate it 5 stars, but it's like right up there. I think I originally rated it 4.5, and it might even be higher now. I don't know, but this is a retelling of the story of Achilles, like from the Iliad, and I'd never read that. I didn't really know anything about Achilles, and it's about Achilles, but it's also about his relationship with Patroclus, and their romance, and it's like a love story, but more so like a tragedy, so don't go into reading this book thinking it's a romance. I don't know, that's all I'm going to say about it. Really sad, really heartbreaking, and I also wasn't expecting to like this book as much. I really, if you would have asked me, what do you think you're going to read this book, I would have had zero idea, so I think that's why I put it for the biggest surprise. Next question, favorite author, debut or new to you? And I think this is the perfect answer because it's both new to me and debut. Obviously new to me if it's debut, but you know what I mean. And that is, again, this one was really hard because I haven't read very many books, like multiple books by the same author, 2 at the most, I think, literally. But I put Lauren Roberts. So again, I talked about this series a little bit earlier with Reckless. The first book, Powerless, the novella, Powerful, and then the third book, Reckless, but we're not including that. This really does read like a short novel, whereas I feel like some novellas don't feel like a complete story. Hopefully you get that if you've read it, and I rated Powerless 4.75 and this a 4-star. So far, really like Lauren Roberts' writing. Again, this one was hard, so this is the one author that I came up with. I definitely think she has potential, and I'm excited to read more from her. Oh, I almost forgot that I had another answer to this question. The book's at the very bottom of my stack now, but that is J.R.R. Tolkien. I've only technically read one book by him, but I'm about halfway through The Hobbit, so I think I can confidently say that just his writing is amazing. I just really have like no complaints that I can think of about his writing and storytelling, so I wanted to include that one in there. Okay, next question is newest fictional crush, and this one might be kind of surprising because I'm not that far into the series yet, but that is Erin Warner from Shatter Me. I don't know, but reading Unravel Me, which I already showed you guys, really did it for me. Didn't think that was going to happen, but it did, and I am just so excited to continue the next book, Ignite Me, because I feel like it's going to increase tenfold in that book from what I've kind of heard, so definitely him. Really, that was all I could think of. Maybe also Kai from Powerless. I really like Kai. Next is a book that made you cry, and that one was pretty easy because I don't think I've ever cried as hard in a book than I did in this book, and that is a memoir, actually, called When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. I think, one, the fact that it is a memoir and it's not fiction really makes you feel more connected, I think, to the, not really character in this book, but to Paul and his story. And this book is about a neurosurgeon who was 36. He was on the verge of completing like almost a decade worth of schooling to become a neurosurgeon, and he gets diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. So, you know, it just follows him from childhood kind of up until, you know, he gets diagnosed, and then after, and yeah, the end of this book and the epilogue, or I don't even know if you call it an epilogue. Yeah, it is the epilogue. The epilogue in this book really did it for me. Like, I just bawled my eyes out. And I just think everyone should read this book, and it's a book that I would recommend to everyone. On a more happier note, the next question is a book that made you happy, and for this, I have The Wishing Game by Meg Schaffer. I really need to learn how to say her last name. Same author as I was talking about earlier, The Lost Story, that comes out really soon. When I read this book, I did rate it 5 stars. I do think I'll lower that a little bit to like a 4.5 right now, but I still really liked it. Basically, this is like a magical realism fiction with a little subplot of romance. It kind of gives off, I love how her both books so far, the Chronicles of Narnia vibes, and then this one kind of gives off Charlie and the Chocolate Factory vibes, where it's like a competition to win something, and there's kids involved, and it's just very magical, and it was like a warm hug. That's how I would describe this book. So if you want something like that, I would definitely pick this book up. And yeah, it just made me happy to read. The most beautiful book you've bought this year. I have a couple that I could have chose from. I narrowed it down to two, and one of them is The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. I really like this cover. I do like her blue one. I don't know if that's like the UK cover or the special edition cover or something, but I like that one probably more. But this one's still really pretty, just like with the stars and the lighting. I can't really explain why, but it matches the vibe of the book pretty good. This is also kind of magical realism, mystery, romance subplot. And yeah, I just think it's so pretty. And another one is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. Again, beautiful, so cute. This is the Barnes & Noble special edition of this book. I don't remember what the original looks like, but I do really like this one, I think more, if I remember right, than the other one. But again, like stars, I just love anything with stars, apparently. And just like the mushroom looking things and the leaves in the book with the stars coming out of it. Also, definitely matches the vibe of the book very well. This is like a cozy fantasy. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? So many books, but I narrowed it down to three-ish. First one is Morning Star by Pierce Brown. How long has it been since I read Golden Sun, the second book? I don't know, but this is book 3 of the Red Rising trilogy. So it's the last book of the trilogy, but yeah, I just really need to read this book. I think it just intimidates me. If you've read this series, I think you totally understand what I'm saying, but it just takes longer to read, takes more brain power. It's pretty long, it's like 500 pages. Adult sci-fi, which I like pretty much never read adult sci-fi, but I know that I'm going to love it because I love the other two books. They're like 5 stars, and I've heard this one is honestly one of the best in some people's opinions. So yeah, really need to read this by the end of the year before I forget too much about what happened, because a lot does happen and there's a lot of characters and stuff like that. The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. Literally still have not read a Frida McFadden book. I don't know what's wrong with me. I got this book for Christmas, so it's now been 6 months and I still haven't read it. I don't know why. It's been on my TBR a couple times. Right now, my reason is that I'm not in a mystery thriller mood, like at all. I'm in like a romance, fantasy, romantic-y mood. So I haven't picked up a mystery thriller in a couple of months, I think. So hopefully I'll get back into this mood and then I'll read it. But definitely need to read it by the end of the year because I've just heard it's so good and I think I would really like it. And the last one for this question is the next book in the Shatter Me series, but really I just want to finish the series, which I definitely think I can. This is the third book in the Shatter Me series. There's 6 books total with a couple novellas in between. The next question I already answered, but I'll go into detail. That is, how many 5-star reads this year? Again, 4. I already told you guys that at the beginning of the video, and I think I mentioned maybe a couple of them throughout so far, but one of them was The Wishing Game, one was Renegades, one was The Fellowship of the Ring, and When Breath Becomes Air. Next is, what books do you want to reread this year? I don't know if I've really ever reread a book. There's one I can think of, and that is a couple books in the Harry Potter series. So this answer is going to be kind of funny, but a book that I do want to reread is Harry Potter. I first read like 4.5 books when I was in high school, so it's been like 11 years since I read them, and then I stopped, and then I picked them back up when my fiance got me this really awesome box set of these books for Christmas a couple years ago, or for my birthday, I can't remember, and I started reading them in the fall of 2022, so it'll have been about 2 years, so I feel like that's time to do a reread. I don't know if I'll read all of them. I definitely think I'm going to reread the first one just because it just gives off such good fall vibes. I really want to read it in the fall, and I'm obsessed with this series. If you haven't watched any of my videos, I rated them all 5 stars. It's a 5-star series for me and will be forever. Then the other one that I was thinking I might want to reread, kind of for a specific reason because of a book coming out later that I already talked about, and that is the Caraval series. So the novella Spectacular, like I said, comes out later this year, and and I loved the series, so it gives me an excuse to reread them. Will I don't know, because I just have so many books that I haven't read that I want to read, but I do think about the series a lot and just that I just miss it, so it would be a good excuse to read it. Couple more questions. 5-star predictions for the rest of the year. I feel like I'm talking about Shatter Me a lot, but I do think, let me grab it. I do think that after reading Unravel Me and rating it 5 stars, I think that I will at least, I don't really have a reason for why I don't think I'll rate all of them 5 stars, besides watching people's videos on them and seeing people's thoughts on them, and also looking at Goodreads ratings for each book. But I think Ignite Me might have one of the highest ratings of the whole series, so I definitely think I'm going to rate this one 5 stars, and maybe a couple others. That's the first one, and then the next one I think I will really love when I finally get to reading it is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I've owned this now for a good chunk of time, and I still haven't read it, and I don't know why, because I think that I will love it. I think it'll be 5 stars. I don't know that for sure, obviously, but a lot of people love it. It's some of people's all-time favorite book, so I hope I love it when I finally read it. And lastly, we have Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I own both of them. The other one was just stuck in my TBR cart, okay? I was too lazy to get it out. I don't know why I haven't read this either, because I really think I'm gonna love it. I feel like it would be a good, like, winter read for some reason. I don't know if that's true at all. That's just the vibe I get from it. Like, look at the cover. It just looks like a winter read. And I just didn't get around to it last winter, and now it's summer. So hopefully I will get to it this coming winter. Next question is book or books you've been putting off. And for some reason, the books that came to mind were like all of the 5-star prediction books. So The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, like I said, I've been putting it off. I don't know why. The Six of Crows duology I've kind of been putting off. Morning Star by Pierce Brown, which is somewhere in my pile. I'm not getting it right now. I've been putting off, like I also said. There is one other that I don't own yet. I don't know if that counts because I don't own it, but I do really want to read it, but I just can't get myself to buy it for some reason. I don't know why, but that is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I feel like everyone loves this book, and it's definitely not up my alley, which is probably why I've been putting it off. Like, the genre, it's like a historical fiction about two sisters and like World War II. So yeah, definitely don't read books like that, like, ever really. So a little bit intimidating, and it's pretty long, but I do think I'll really like it when I read it. I've just been putting it off. And first I need to buy it. Very last question is book you enjoyed with mixed reviews. I have 2 for this one. First is Shatter Me. This was also a hard question. I was just looking through all the books I've read this year, and I kind of went off what I remember hearing kind of on the internet and BookTube and Book Talk and stuff like that about the books. But then also I was looking at their Goodreads ratings, and a lot of the books I read have a pretty high Goodreads rating, honestly. So the 2 I chose have a lower than 4-star rating, and I liked them more than that. They were both 4 stars for me. So the first one is Shatter Me. I rated it a 4.25 stars. In case you're wondering, the Goodreads rating on it was a 3.85. So not like the worst, but obviously not the best. From what I've seen, I know that a couple of the book girlies on YouTube rated this one like 3 stars. They didn't love it, but a couple of them did really like it, and I am one of the people that liked it. And then the other book I have for this, I don't own. It's on my Kindle, and I've already talked about it a little bit. I try not to repeat myself too much, but it's hard. Especially when I've only read 31 books. I mean, that's still a lot. It's not like I've read 70. And that is The Trial of the Sun Queen. I think I've seen 2 booktubers read this, and one of them did not really like it at all, and one of them really liked it. So that's kind of mixed reviews, and the, again, rating on Goodreads is not super high. It's a 3.89 stars, and I rated it also 4.25, just like Shatter Me. I kind of get that it's not like super original, but I still enjoyed it. Those are the 2 that I could think of for that question. So with that being said, I think that is the end of today's video. I rambled long enough. I hope you guys got some recommendations. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts were. Let me know what new releases you guys are excited for, because I am just always looking to find more books to read. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!